welcome back to the Shoop Knit Cardigan. This is day 3 of a 6-day make-along, and I am so happy to have you joining us here. By this point, you have completed all of your homework for days 1 and 2, which means the top part of your sweater is nearly complete. We have just a little bit of knitting to do before we separate for the sleeves and the body, and then we have to do some garter stitch, basic, real even, simple knitting for the bust, and then we will be ready for the next step, which is the peplum lacy bit at the bottom. By this point, you should have your homework, your instructions for this section, and maybe your cup of coffee or iced tea or Dr. Pepper or maybe a more adult beverage of choice in front of you. Whatever it is, I'm ready to go. I hope you're ready to go. Let's go ahead and let's go. Okay, everybody. So in the last section, we actually completed the increase section 2 and increase section 3. As it states on both of these pages, it says we've finished with the sleeve increases after section 2, and we finished with any body increases after section 3. Now, I do want to point out you are still carrying on with your button band instructions, and you want to do that until you have the total number of button bands written in the pattern, or buttonholes written in the pattern, or as many as you want. So, for example, the pattern itself, for the various sizes, you either need 5, 6, 7, or 8 buttonholes. And if you want more buttonholes, if you want to have more buttons down the front of your piece, you absolutely can do that. It's your prerogative. If you want to have fewer, if you just want like 3 at the top, you could do that as well. Just remember that as we continue on, you want to make sure you're always following this 10-row repeat for the buttonhole band until you have the total number of buttonholes you want for your sweater. Okay, so that's important as we move on to the next set of instructions. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's instructions. We will be working an even section. Now, all this is going to do is it's going to give us a little bit of depth from where we end our our raglan shaping into where we separate for our armholes, okay? So this is just a little bit of a garter stitch section that we will be doing in this area. And so you will keep everything in garter stitch. Make sure you're following along with your buttonhole band instructions, so at the same time, okay? So it says you repeat the last 2 rows until the piece measures however the distance is for you. Maintain your buttonhole band, okay? After you have finished that even section, it's time to separate for the body and the sleeves. Now, I'm going to tell you, I tried to film this next part on the actual sample that I was working up, and I kept getting out of frame and it just wasn't working. So I whipped up a little tiny swatch that we're going to use for this set of instructions. I hope it works for you guys as I'm walking through what you're going to do. I mean, it should work, but I just wanted to explain why my new sample doesn't look like the old, because it's not the same. Okay, first off, when we separate for the body and the sleeves, what we're going to do is we will maintain our buttonhole band pattern. So wherever you are in that 10-row repeat, continue doing that. However, we're going to ultimately get all of the stitches that are for our sleeve, and we're going to put those on a holder. So if we don't want to overthink what's going on here, ultimately, we want to take all the stitches that are on our sleeves, and we will put those on a holder. That does not include the one solitary stitch that's between the 2 stitch markers all the way around. That is actually going to be counted into our total number of stitches as we do this, okay? But here's the trick. When we move those stitches to a holder, we will also be casting on extra stitches to replace those stitches in our sequence, and ultimately we're adding stitches to be our armpit, okay? So we're going to do that using the backwards E with an extra little twist to it. That's what I want to do as we're doing the extra stitches for our armpit. And ultimately what that will do is give us the correct number of stitches all the way around our body that we can then continue on and work our bust. So here at the start, as we look at our instructions here, we will work the first 5 stitches in our buttonhole band pattern wherever you are in the pattern. If you've completed your buttonholes, then you just have to knit those, right? You'd slip the first stitch and knit all of them. But you would slip your marker and then you would knit to the marker. That will take you to your first marker before your sleeve, right? Okay, so let's pull this in. This is my little swatch I was just saying I worked out. So I did not put in the buttonhole band, so forgive me here. So this would be like the buttonhole band and I slipped a marker. Then I knit to my next marker. So that would be this one right here. So it's the first marker after my buttonhole band, right? So after the buttonhole band marker, it's this marker. I would remove this marker. And then I have one stitch right here before my next marker. I'm just gonna knit that stitch, okay? So that stitch now is part of my overall stitches that's gonna go around my body. Then I will remove this marker and I'm gonna place all of the stitches between this marker and this marker on a holder, okay? Then I will remove this marker and I will go ahead and cast on stitches to be my armpit. I will knit that one stitch right there and that will now be part of my whole body of the piece. Remove this marker, knit to the next marker, remove this one. This now is that one solitary stitch that will become part of my whole piece. Remove this marker. These are my sleeve stitches. I'm going to put those on a holder. Remove that marker and then I will cast on stitches so that way I have an armpit, right? Then I have one stitch right here. I will knit that one stitch because it will become part of my overall body stitch count. And then I will remove that marker and then knit to the last marker, which is right before my buttonhole, and then work my last 5 stitches. You see how that works? So ultimately, the stitches that are between these markers out here, not the back, not the fronts, everything that's in our sleeves, we're going to put on a holder. So let's do that together here. Move that out of the way. Oh, I need to mention, you need to have some scrap yarn so that way you can use that as your holder. So if you don't have any scrap yarn lying around, go ahead and grab yourself, some scrap yarn, just like some Super Saver or some cotton yarn or something very easy. Grab the scrap yarn and your tapestry needle because that's how we will put those sleeve stitches on a holder, okay? All right, remember I didn't have my button band stitches. So I worked my button band and now I'm knitting over to my first marker. So here's my marker, I will remove it. I have one stitch, I will knit it. This is my next marker, this is the start of my sleeve. I will remove that marker, grab some scrap yarn on a tapestry needle, and we will put these stitches, the next number of stitches, it'll be written in the pattern how many stitches you have in your sleeve. You will put all of your sleeve stitches here onto a scrap yarn, okay, or onto a holder. So I've just thread them all on here. I can pull this through. And I will give you a little hint of what I do. So when I put all of my stitches on a holder, I will then take the ends of the yarn and I tie them together, okay? The reason I do that is because many, many years ago, I didn't do this and I got a hold of one of the ends of my scrap yarn by accident and I tugged on it and I pulled all of my stitches off of my scrap yarn. So I don't like to do that. So I always tie a knot into my scrap yarn that I have my stitches on a holder. And then I just cut that when it's time to put those back on my work. Okay. So once I've done that, I'm going to put this back over here so that I can use it on the other side. So I put those on a holder. I remove my marker. Now I'm supposed to cast on however many number of stitches it would be written in the pattern. So here's how we're going to do it. Grasp your yarn and scoop around, okay? So grasp your yarn, take your thumb and go over top from the back, underneath, and up. Take your left-hand needle, come to the bottom of your thumb and come up, okay? Don't stop here. Take your thumb out, don't pull yet. You see I have that crossover right there. I want to twist it. So I'm going to actually twist this one more time so that I essentially get a double crossover. And what that does is it gives me a much more secure backwards E. So it's like a twisted backwards E or double twisted backwards E. I don't even know what it would be called. It's much better than just a plain backwards E. So grab your yarn, take your thumb, scoop underneath and up. Left-hand needle, this is the right-hand needle. Go into that stitch on your thumb, take your thumb out, so you have this crossover right here. You want to just twist it. So you're twisting that loop. So now see how the crossover is twisted? Now pull your yarn and you've cast on. All right. Now the number of stitches you're supposed to cast on is different for every size. So make sure you follow along with whatever size you're supposed to cast on with. But ultimately, you want to have them on. Now, if this is too difficult for you and you just want to do it this way, this is just simply like you go like this and you just pull. You can, but I will tell you, these are very flimsy and they are just not very good. So if you can do this, you can just twist that one more time and get on and get that double twist. Okay, so you'll cast on however many stitches you're supposed to. All right, then you'll knit that one, remove your marker. Now we're on the back of our work. So this is the back of your piece. You will just knit over to the next marker. Okay, remove my marker. Knit one, remove my marker. Place these stitches. This is my second sleeve, right? I'm going to put all of these stitches from my second sleeve on a holder. This is a different holder, right? I mean, it's a different scrap of yarn. Obviously, you will have more than 4 stitches, but you get the concept here, I hope. Take a second right here. Tie this, okay? Just tie this up. Just trust me on this. Nothing worse than if you lose everything. Okay? Remove this marker, do your cast on. So I'm going to do, I think I did 4 on the other side. I'm going to do 4 here again. Okay. Knit the 1 stitch. Remove your marker, and now you will knit down to your buttonhole band, slip your marker, and then finish your buttonhole band. So the only markers that are back in place would be your buttonhole band markers. Obviously I don't have those, they'd be right here. But then you have all of your sleeve stitches are now pulled aside, and you just have a set number of stitches right here that you will continue to work on. Pretty easy so far, right? Now, this is what I'm going to say to you. Because you've put in all of this work for the yoke of your body, you've separated for your sleeves. Take a second right now and add a lifeline into your work. So that way, if you need to rip back to this point, you have a safety net. Take your needle just like this, okay? Take your needle just like this. Take your string, whatever you use for this, grab that, and just thread it through all of the stitches that are on your needle right now and give yourself a lifeline, okay? That way you don't mess up, all right? And then if you want to make a note wherever you're looking at your pattern, make a note of what row it is that you just put your lifeline in. Obviously, it's right after the separate for the body and the sleeves. You put your lifeline in, okay? Do that right now. Once you put that lifeline in, the next thing you will do is you will slip one, knit to the last 5 stitches, work the 5 stitches in the buttonhole band pattern. So essentially you're just knitting the next row just like you've been doing before, but you're maintaining your buttonhole band pattern. If you still need to make buttonholes, right? If you don't need to make buttonholes, you're just knitting those because eventually that's all everybody's going to do because you don't want buttonholes all the way down the piece, okay? All right. Now, continue evenly in garter stitch, slipping the first stitch of each row and working any remaining buttonholes until piece measures 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, or 4 inches from the underarm edge, ending after a wrong side row. Any guesses as to why we want to continue in garter stitch underneath our underarm? It's simple. It's because that's where our bust is. Now, you might think to yourself, I thought the bust was up in the yoke area. It's really not. If you were to take a look at your garment right now, you can see that your armhole depth, right where your underarm is or your armpit, as you work across, that's really right at one of the fullest points of your bust, you know, unless you're not wearing a bra. It could be a little bit deeper, but you know, that's everybody to each their own, but you get what I'm saying, right? Right here at the underarm, as it comes across, that's your bust area. So we don't want the peplum area to start right here at the center of our bust. It's just not very flattering. We want it to drop down. Now, the depth of how far down it drops is totally up to you. Based on general garment construction, these numbers right here should work really well based on the size you're making and the bust size that you should have, or based on the size you're making. Did any of that make sense? Anyways, these are the standard measurements of what you would want to keep in just, I'm gonna call it plain fabric before you jump into a pattern stitch if you're gonna have some sort of a piece like what we're making. If you want this to be shorter or longer, you could make it that way. Okay, so if you want more area of your bust to be garter stitch or less area, you just make it shorter or longer, this area, okay? That's totally, completely up to you, and you can do that, all right? But that's why we're doing the garter stitch in this bust area, so that way we don't have the lace portion right at the fullest part of our bust. All right, so that is everything you're going to do for this section of the pattern. You're going to work even, okay? Work even so that you get a pretty good depth. That's gonna give us some separation from our raglan to our armpit. It's also gonna make sure that we have the correct depth of our yoke from the top of our neck down to where our armpit is, because this depth needs to be correct. If it's too short, you're gonna feel like you're like walking around like this because your armpits are gonna be too high. So this even section makes it so that we have the absolute correct depth from the top of our neck down to our armhole. And then you will separate for the body and the sleeves. Okay, we just did that, pretty easy. Then what you will do is you would continue on working even in the garter stitch for the bust area. Once we've completed that, we move on to the peplum, which is what we will do on days 4 and 5. So when you join me here tomorrow, we're going to learn all about how to do that very simple peplum lace. It's just a very fancy way to say the bottom part of our cardigan, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So go enjoy your day, knit away, everybody. Make sure you share with us on social media. Use hashtag MarleyBird or hashtag MMMDI, and be sure to share with us in the Marley's Minions group. We love seeing all of your projects. It's very, very exciting. That's it for me, everyone. I will talk to you very soon. Bye. So I have to ask you guys, did you notice the sweater I'm wearing? It is the Breckenridge knit cardigan, which is the long sleeve version of the Shoop Shoop Shoop. This pattern is one of the patterns you actually get inside the VIP upgrade. So if you're interested at all in maybe adding sleeves to your Shoop Shoop Shoop, but you don't want to do any of the math or anything for that, I got you covered. Come join us over in the VIP upgrade. All the details and the link are in the video description box right down there below. Along with this pattern, you're going to get a lot of extra bonuses in there. So make sure you go and check out what those are, and come be a VIP here. I'll see you guys soon.